professor in the Department of English from Gangtok, Sikkim. I welcome all our esteemed guests and our listeners who have joined us through StreamYard and through Facebook Live. It's a great honor for me to welcome all of you and also to moderate this panel discussion on the age of moral aridity and insensitivity. At the very outset, I would like to thank Dr. Janelle Singh sir for giving me this opportunity and the International Academy of Ethics. The International Academy of Ethics is a platform propounded by Dr. Janelle Singh Anand and Maya Herman Sikolik. It is on a mission to bring about an understanding and practice of ethics in today's day and age where we seem to have lost this value. Today, we are here to address a topic that is not only important but also incredibly relevant in our modern society: moral aridity and insensitivity. As we navigate the complexities of our lives, it becomes increasingly crucial to reflect on the state of our moral compass and how our actions or lack thereof impact the world around us. Before we begin the discussion and before I welcome our esteemed guests, I would like to give a brief introduction of the International Academy of Ethics founded by Dr. Janelle Singh Anand. Dr. Anand sir is the main brain behind the establishment of the International Academy of Ethics, which is a precursor for the University of Ethics being established by the Azad Foundation. This academy is planning to have its branches in various countries, and MOUs are under process for association with universities and educational institutions to make sure that all studies start with a compulsory course in ethics. The Academy has started on a great mission in order to install the idea of ethics in the impressionable minds of young kids. The Academy has international scholars on its role of world ambassadors and distinguished scholars from different countries. Dr. Maya Herman Sikulik is the Vice President Academy of Ethics. She is working to focus her work and attention on the issue of ethics. The last program organized by the Academy was a panel discussion on films, media, and violence, which received a massive response. Let's listen to Dr. Maya Herman Sikulik, the Vice President's message to this August before we begin the program. So I request Dr. Randir Gautam sir to help broadcast the message, please.
Hi, this is Maya Herman Sekulic. As the Vice President of the Academy of Ethics, I welcome all the panelists, eminent participants in the second panel dedicated to the age of insensitivity and based on the precious text of Dr. Janelle Anand, the president of this academy. Yes, it is based on this particular text, but I would say that the whole opus of Anand's is about, it's a lament on the age of insensitivity, and the whole idea of the International Ethics Academy is also a lament on the state of affairs today in the whole world of our planet, in every aspect of our life, and especially in culture that should be the healer of the mankind, and which it is, and we are fighting for it to be again the one that will elevate the mankind. And I hope that the panel will elevate also the question of how to fight against the insensitivity which is occurring in every aspect starting from our relationship towards Mother Nature, first of all, and vegetation and animals, and of course the humankind, this state of permanent war. Here I am in Europe, and the war is raging not very far from where I am, only maybe an hour by plane. So we are on the verge of the Third World War, and we are on the verge of also artificial intelligence ruling over us, maybe, if we don't introduce ethics in its core before it can take us over. So all these matters are extremely important, and I hope that this panel will be as successful, if not more, as was the previous panel on the violence in media. So blessings to all, and wishing you great success, and a special warm hello to my greatest friend and great president of the panel and the Academy, Jarnail Anand. As always, Maya Herman Sekulic, with you in spirit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maya Herman, ma'am. And yes, thank you so much, Dr. Randhir, as well. Moral aridity. It refers to a diminishing sense of empathy, compassion, and ethical values within individual and communities. It is a phenomenon we may have observed in the way people interact with each other nowadays, the decisions made by leaders, even, or even in the way we consume information and news today. Throughout today's conversation and discussion, I encourage all the listeners also to share your thoughts and insights openly. This is a most pertinent platform to exchange ideas, challenge assumptions, and most importantly, to listen to each other with an open mind and heart. So let us embark on this journey together and delve into the complexities of moral aridity and insensitivity, aiming to build a brighter, more empathetic future for ourselves and the generations to come. To begin the discussion this evening, I'm honored to introduce our most learned panelists and great scholars from India and abroad, whom we have invited to share with us their views on today's topic. Our first guest for today is Professor Dr. Shandar Ahmed. Dr. Shandar Ahmed is currently working as a professor and scientist at the School of Computational and Integrative Sciences, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He belongs to Old Delhi and is a passionate and enthusiastic scientist who also loves poetry, Urdu and English both. He was ranked 4th on list of best bioinformaticians in India. He has also been appointed as a research scientist at National Institute of Biomedical Innovation and has won many awards. He has published more than 100 research articles in high-impact, reputed international journals. His thrust areas of research are bioinformatics, big data analytics, and complex systems. His research group has developed many bioinformatics software for various purposes, such as binding site prediction, DNA shape or indirect readout prediction tools, solvent accessibility, and general structural analysis tools. Currently, his research group is engaged in developing data-driven algorithms and applications of biological data. Their basic research interests are machine learning, deep learning through neural networks, big data analytics, and novel architectures. Sir, I welcome you to this discussion. And sir, yes, I would like to tell you that you have 10 minutes for your deliberation, after which we'll have a few question and answer sessions, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shobha, for a wonderful introduction and a lot of research into my background. And thank you, all the great thinkers around. And I really feel privileged to be in the company of such great people. So, coming to the point directly, when I looked at this topic of insensitivity or sensitivity for that matter, uh, there were a few thoughts that came to my mind. First of them was when we say sensitivity or insensitivity, what is it about? It is in respect to the social groups towards other groups to which we don't belong. The familial, I mean, between parents and children, between siblings and other family members, and of course, the Mother Earth, the environment, and the long term the well-being of this universe. So these are the three different perspectives and or the levels at which I thought about the question could be thought about. And then I was also, being a scientist, I also thought the sensitivity, the opposite of insensitivity, is why do we need to be sensitive, and is insensitivity detrimental to our survival, and how human beings became sensitive, or are human beings more sensitive than other species. So it's a long question, but I'll just touch upon the points so that we can have later on discussions possibly. So I looked at it as a kind of a tool, a social cooperate the sensitivity to be a tool of social cooperativity. And social cooperation is required for a collective survival as against the individual survival. And in the context of the evolutionary history of the human beings or any living species, um, collective or the group competence or fitness improves when they work in cooperativity with each other, and the insensitivity is a is not only an instrument to understand the cooperativity and measure it and to be able to respond to the needs for cooperating with one another. So, and this was one thought that I came to my mind. And then the next question, within the narrow scope of the evolutionary time period, that is the human beings, and over the ages, the periods, I was thinking about who needs the others to be insensitive. And here the question came to my mind, and that was the juxtaposition between independence and sensitivity. Are they really can I be independent uh, and be sensitive at the same time, and is there a conflict between when the social groups and individuals, when we talk a lot about individualism versus collectivism, and their philosophies and their thoughts in favor of either of them. So does insensitivity lead to independence, or does independence necessarily make me more insensitive because my thought process is more individualistic? This was also a point that was coming to my mind, and this is something that we have to think about, that sometimes um, in the very fact that we want to gain independence, individuality may lead to insensitivity. Another thought that was coming in the context come to my mind was that who when I was thinking about the who needs this um, sensitivity, or where are we worried about the insensitivity, is also about the vulnerable groups, where the insensitivity is really detrimental for the vulnerable groups within a social scenario. And vulnerabilities may be at the gender level, maybe at the level of the social groups, and maybe at the level of within the family, who holds the economic power, the parents versus the children. So at one point of time, the children may be more vulnerable than the parents. At another point of time, the parents may be more vulnerable, and they may need more sensitivity, and they may be the victims of insensitivity at different phases of their life. So not only that, we do talk about the insensitivities of the younger generation towards the elders, but possibly the parental sensitivities towards the needs of their children, and sometimes the growing and the changing circumstances in which the children grow also is a point to be considered, that sometimes the parents are insensitive to the challenging times that their children are living in, which they had not faced when they were younger. So the professional and the social scenarios that the younger generation is faced with are much more serious and much more difficult, and sometimes may lead to the insensitivity towards parents. So some kind of an understanding that comes in conflict with the question of sensitivity in this case, and that has to be considered when we talk about the idea of insensitivity in the larger perspective. And another point that also I was thinking about was the insensitivity in regards to the conflict of interest. Since, as I said, the social groups work on the principle of cooperativity and as an instrument of the acquiring fitness for survival in the Darwinian language. So, since social groups work on the cooperativity, and then the social groups may be defined at different levels of details and different levels of the self-interest. So, it is natural that the our insensitivities and sensibilities will come in conflict with the interests of the affiliations and associations that we carry. So these are to be thought about. And finally, the last point that I would like to make here is the um, are we really living in a times which are less sensitive or which are more insensitive than in the past? I thought about it, and my simple thoughts were like, when we say, are we living in the age of more aridity and more insensitivity, what is the time frame we are looking at? So are we looking at the time period of 10 years, 20 years, thousands of years? When I really look at it at long term time scale, I feel very proud to say that humanity is today much more sensitive than what possibly human beings have been, say, 1,000 years ago or several thousand years ago. So we have, as a human civilization, my feeling is that uh, we have covered a long distance in this journey of insensitivity and the social cooperativity and affection and love for each other. But when we look at the smaller time scales, it may be possible that when any graph that goes, when we, as a data scientist, we are familiar with this, then the curve is not always smooth. Sometimes we are going up, and locally there may be local fluctuations, and we may feel like we are going down. And I believe that if in a short term we see that there are some spikes in insensitivity, or there is a growth in insensitivity, and we are perhaps um, wavering in our resolve to make a better world and to develop a better civilization, then possibly it is just a local and short-term phenomena. And that is why these societies like International Society for Ethics and all, they are rising up to the occasion. They are ensuring that our journey towards the human cooperation, towards the cooperation with the environment, and towards the sensitivity towards one another continues to grow in the positive direction. So these are kind of summary of the thoughts that I got. I think I'm in time, and that is how I will conclude. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, yes, very pertinent, and we have really warmed up to the discussion now with your deliberation, sir. Sir, I would like to ask you, since you are a scientist yourself, uh, does technology and social media have a pertinent role in fostering moral aridity and insensitivity, sir?
I will not totally think so. Social media or any technology is a power in the hands of people, and it is not the power itself which can be held responsible for the deterioration. It is about how people use it. uh, it is the technology that is bringing us together here from across the borders, right? We are sitting across to each other in this program because this technology has enabled this kind of interaction. So I think the technology is a powerful tool, and when power is used or powerful tools are used irresponsibly, then our the worst and best both can be, um, come in focus, and they will be at play. That is just it is just that, I think.
So then, if media plays a role in insensitivity, what are cultural or societal forces?
I think I missed your because of due to voice break. Can you please repeat yourself?
Yes. cultural or societal forces, do they have a role to play in sort of
Yes, actually,
fostering this? Yes, sir.
yeah, if you you're specifically talking about the social media, the growth explosion in the field of communication and our ability to interact. So, in
Yes, sir.
some sense, we are at, as I said, that there is this is a civilizational change. Uh,
Yes, sir.
we started in a very non-cooperative and very insensitive times, and mm, people made groups, and then they came together. Initially, the people were killing each other, their neighbors, and then they decided to become more civilized, and perhaps it, as a positive contribution to their own survival tactics. So we, in some sense, we are in an early stage of our
Yes, sir.
social uh, uh, electronic society, or whatever you call it, the society in the virtual world.
Yes,
And
sir.
some of these social formations, the civilizational developments are still taking shape. So, in some sense, you can think of ourselves to be in a parallel of that times of growth, and we will develop the better civilization on the social media and other forms eventually, because that is the only way to go forward.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Since I don't see any question in the chat box, so we'll come back to you again. I'll go to the next speaker for today, Professor. I'm really, really very honored. I have been an avid admirer of Professor Dr. Lakshmi Sri Banerjee, ma'am. Most welcome to our panel discussion. I'd like to give a brief introduction of Ma'am Professor Dr. Lakshmi Sri Banerjee. Madam is a multiple award-winning poet, writer, critic, professional vocalist, a former vice chancellor and university professor of English and cultural studies. She is an international senior Fulbright and Commonwealth scholar and national scholar of the University of Calcutta. Widely published and anthologized across the globe, she has to her credit 9 books of poetry and 120 academic and research publications, including books in English, Hindi, Sanskrit, sorry, ma'am, Art and doctoral UGC Research Award, Government of India for her groundbreaking research on the comparative studies of world women poets for literary and cultural mappings, and the Sahitya Academy honor titled Avishkar for her dual artistry as a scholar artist and a poet musician. She is the recipient of 2 international awards for lifetime achievement in art and literature, 2 Women Achievers Awards, the International Panorama Award for Literature, the Kalaratnam Award, and several others. As an avid sociocultural virtuoso, Dr. Banerjee is a senior Rotarian and a decorated multiple Paul Harris Fellow of the Rotary International. She has also been the Indian President's nominee on boards of central universities. With an ethically vibrant consciousness, Dr. Banerjee believes in the power of her pen and voice for impacting social transformation and international goodwill for a better world order. Let me repeat, I'm really honored to host you, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Me? Okay. Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? Am I heard? Okay. Namaskar, a very good evening. I'm really honored to be an integral, I hope, an integral part of this International Academy of Ethics. And I would like to continue from where Professor Ahmed, you know, left uh, open the field. Of course, I want to talk about moral aridity and insensitivity in a larger context than the human context. Because in today's world, this aridity, this word aridity, it reminds me totally, it puts me into that capsule of Tagore's, that well known sonnet, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. There is an image there where it says, where the clear stream of reason, where the clear stream of reason, uh, what's it, has not lost its way, in the dreary desert sand of dead habit. Now, this image of a desert sand, I mean, no matter how much we would like to think about the positive aspects of this civilization, we would still know that inwardly we are very agonized as sensitive human beings. I presume that scholars and writers are intrinsically sensitive human beings. And so, this sensitivity is very much allied with what I think of as the transcendental consciousness which every human being has. Only thing is that it has not been destroyed, but it has been very sadly invaded and annexed by a world which is growing and growing every day in a manner that is very agonizing. A transactional world. In every relationship, we look for a transaction, give and take. A world which is full of greed and avarice. A world which is absolutely utilitarian, absolutely consumerist. I do agree that technology is a facilitator, but I still would like to leave this question open to everyone, that we are really connecting. We are like Dr. Ahmed said, is independence somewhere connected to interdependence? Yes and no. I mean, I feel as sensitive people, of course, independence can be connected to interdependence. Of course, sensitivity is very much a part of ethics. Ethics, which this academy, ethics comes from the Greek word ethikos, ethikos or ethos, which means the quintessential character of something. And human beings have a quintessential character. I don't know. Am I being heard? There's an interruption. Hello.
Yes,
No,
ma'am. We can hear
you are
you.
very well
Yes,
audible,
ma'am.
I think.
Carry on.
I'm audible.
Yeah.
So, this kind of annexation of ethikos, the annexation of ethos, the annexation of humanity, of the human consciousness, including our interdependence with nature, our ecological consciousness. We should also think not about human society, but what we have done to nature, to Mother Earth. I mean, what is the result? The pandemic, everything that is going, it seems to be, that famous poem by W.B. Yeats, the center cannot hold and everything seems to fall apart. So the point is, in this consciousness of ethikos or ethics or moral rectitude, not in terms of just a code of conduct. I do not believe in just strictures. We can talk a lot, we can believe in certain principles and values, but we do not adhere to them in everyday practice. And so I feel that sensitivity is a part of empathy, energy, and ethics. Humanity is a part of empathy, energy, and ethics. I'm getting disconnected. I don't know. Please raise your hands if you can hear me. Hello? Hello?
Uh, Please carry on. Please carry on.
Dr. Anand, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, definitely.
No, because I can't see any, because my face is also not moving. But anyway, uh, so when Tagore talks about this dreary desert sand of dead habit, we are, of course, talking about today's habit, contemporary conflict ridden world, the habits of consumerism, and then the larger world where we connect with nature, the ecological consciousness, which is also sadly absent because of our greed. Everything has become utilitarian. So we need to get back to the initial consciousness of being human beings, humanity, sensitivity, and ethics. And of course, the other day we were discussing these two epics, Homer's epic and Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, we have several incidents where Lord Krishna himself is instrumental in making Arjuna uh, kill Karna in a very weak point of time when it was very unethical. Okay, so does Dronacharya. He asks for his disciples' uh, thumb because he didn't want Ekalavya to become a greater archer than Arjuna. So there are, even in Homer, like the Achilles' heel we were discussing, where Hector kills Achilles because he knows his weak point. Now, these are all in the epics itself. We have unethical circumstances where heroes are killed. But why are these there? Not to tell us to do those things, but rather to forbid us to do those things, where Krishna is coming back to solve adharma. When in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about his coming into every age for the restoration of dharma. When he says about the redemption of mankind, for which he needs to be reincarnated every age, he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanang srijamaham. Whenever there is adharma, I will be born, I will be birthing to rectify those unethical activities. Paritranaya sadhunam, I will save those who are good. Vinashaya cha dushkritam, those who are monstrous and evil, I will destroy them. Dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So the cycle of life, sambhavami yuge yuge, the God consciousness, whether Krishna was a mythological figure or that's not the point. The point is the consciousness of humanity, nature, and divinity, which evolves after every decline, after every annexation. There is a resurgence. There's a rejuvenation which makes us hopeful for a better world if we can use it in our thoughts, in our words, in our practices, in our actions. And I would like to finish this part of my little bit of contribution by a small poem, which is not a prayer. I have called it a prayer, but it is actually a triggering of our own inner self, the inner self of sensitivity, the inner sense of ethics and humanity and morality. So I've called it The Power of Love, which was published a few weeks back in the Journal of the Ethics, International Ethics Academy. It's a very short prayer where I evoke the consciousness, and the consciousness is called by me. I address, Dear my beloved, because love is the only fire, as Tagore says. Love is the only fire which can actually uh, put an end to all fires of hatred. So, dear my beloved, let me not fall into the ashes as I wing up to the azure. Let me not descend to the abyss as I reach the highest peak. Let me not drown in hubris. Again, that Greek word hubris, which means ego and pride. Let me not drown in hubris as I eagle up to your empyrean. Let me not soak into the grime as I'm cleansed in your lava. Let me not soil my ablutions as I share my purity of well being. Let me not delve into purgatory as I reach your sacred summit. Let me not look down from the crescendo as I look up for those who fall. Let me not look down from the crescendo as I look up for those who fall. Do swaddle me fully in your love, safe from the cinders of haughty hate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thoroughly enjoyed listening to you. Ma'am, you talked about the Mahabharata and the other epics.
Gita,
I,
Bhagavad Gita.
sorry, yes, ma'am, the Bhagavad Gita. I would like to ask you, ma'am, apart from media, literature, art, how can we encourage open dialogue and constructive conversations about moral dilemmas, ma'am, ethical choices, and the importance of empathy in various communities? How do we encourage it? How do we bring it about?
Well, social media and digitalized world is a new development. I think more than virtuality, I believe in reality, in community building. For example, I am a part of a very big international organization, the most important service organization of the world, which is Rotary International. We go down to villages, we not only teach them, we give them food. Now, community building is not always possible, at least in India. I do not think, at least 80 or maybe 75% of the communities of India do not have computers or smartphone. Of course, maybe in the developed world, in America, in Europe, but in our country, we have to actually physically do a lot of community building, going to villages, distributing food, distributing knowledge, doing our literacy programs. I mean, community building is something which, unless one is very sensitive, we cannot just do community building with material resources. Material resources is not the way for community building. It is, of course, we give material resources for uplift of the upgradation of the underprivileged, but human resources, humanity, sensitivity, this fellowship. I feel that if I walk into a room, even if there are 10 people and not 100 people, and if I am hugging all of them, if I am interacting with all of them, I think there's fantastic community building. Virtuality has helped us as a facilitator, but virtuality is not the last answer. Technology has also pros and cons, as everything else has. If some people will say artificial intelligence is very good, the others are getting scared about such monstrous clones being born and sort of, almost ravaging the human world. So there are always two sides to the same coin. We just have to evaluate and balance, and primarily the humanity and sensitivity, whether we physically walk into villages, whether we teach physically, or to those who have smartphones, whichever way, fellowship is important. I mean, unless we are in a total integrated community building, totally, into camaraderie, whether it's social, literary, or whatever, that camaraderie is going to take our civilization forward, because we can't look backward, we cannot repeat history. We know what what has happened to the world in the past. We cannot repeat that. We cannot let hunger for power be so ruthless that, the entire civilization, the entire ethos, as I said, ethos is connected to ethics, the entire ethos of our country, our India, our globe, our world is destroyed. We have to be human beings first. So that's, I think, all I can say.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll come back to you again. Now, to yes, ma'am, carry the program forward. We have our next guest from Italy, Dr. Gianluigi Segalerba. Sir, I'd like to read out a brief introduction about you. Dr. Gianluigi Segalerba was born in Genoa in 1967. He graduated in philosophy at the University of Pisa in 1991 and obtained his PhD in philosophy at the University of Pisa in 1998. He was visiting he was a visiting scholar at the universities of Tübingen and of Bern of Vienna. His research interests include ontology, ancient philosophy, economic ethics, human rights, cosmopolitanism, theories of emotions, feminism, multiculturalism, environmental philosophy, philosophy for children, and animal ethics. He has presented papers at several international conferences. His first book was No Tsukuisa. He was co-editor of the volume Substantia, and he is the author of the book Semantic Ontology and Ontology. He has published academic articles in reviews from Austria, Brazil, Germany, Greece, Romania, and Switzerland. He currently lives and works in Vienna. We are very honored to have you with us, sir, all the way from Italy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I thank you for the invitation, and of course, I am honored to being able to participate in this wonderful session and with these wonderful scholars. I would have a presentation, but I do not know whether I can let the other people to participate in the presentation. Anyway, if I cannot communicate the participation,
Sir, I
I
think
can.
Dr. Randir, sir, can help you with your presentation.
Ah,
Do you have
yes,
a PowerPoint?
no problem. Yes, there are only some pages, some 5, 6 pages, in
Yes,
order
yes, sir.
to
Great.
make
We'd love
clear
to
what
see
I
it.
am going to say. But there is no problem. That is, I can speak without participating in the
Dr.
participation too.
Randir, sir, can help you, sir.
No problem.
Dr. Randir, sir? Yes, please.
He has to send me my email, but meanwhile, thank you.
I can go without that is there are only a few phrases, a few sentences. No problem. That is, I can be sufficiently clear also without presentation if the presentation is not to be. Uh, let's see
Okay, sir. As you wish, sir.
if there are problem. No, I think though. Okay, I think that no problem. Please, I would like to, of course, to thank you very much for your interest and for your invitation. And of course, I am always to be contacted if you need something. Now, I would like to make some general points about the roots, perhaps, and the causes of the age of moral aridity and sensitivity. First of all, I think that this age has been, in a certain way, prepared. That is, it is not an accident if we find, at least in some countries, and I can speak more rather of the Western Europe countries than all over the world, but I can speak limiting myself to these countries. And I think that for these countries, this age of moral aridity and sensitivity is not an accident. This it should not be a wonder, and you shouldn't wonder ourselves if there is at least a certain degree of moral aridity and sensitivity, and if this degree of moral aridity and insensitivity has been increasing all over the past 40 years, I would say 40, 50 years. It is not an accident, at least in my opinion, at least I see as I see it. And I think that the principal root, the main root, has consisted in in a specific interpretation of the educational system, of the formation system where this education system is not to be interpreted as only exclusively the school system, but also university system, and in general, the education we are offering to the people, to the persons of our countries, independent of the ages, the models of education, the models of thinking, and so on. And I will clarify what I am thinking. First of all, of course, the mind is dependent on the system of education that we have. And I think that at least in the 50 years, in the past 50 years, at least in certain countries of Western Europe, the tendency has been to concentrate the system of education on technique. Well, I first of all would like to say that I have nothing against technique. On the contrary, the problem is here rather another one. That is, the mentality has been imposed, has been affirmed that the only important thing is technique, not generally the scientific matters, no, the technique and technical matters, and that education should be concentrated rather on technical matters and on and what should diminish its attention as regards other matters. That is, technical matters are the only important matters, and mental resources are exclusively represented by the technical matters, and education therefore should be concentrated exclusively on technical matters. I can remember, even if I was only a child, that this mentality has begun at least in the 70s. That is when I was in the elementary school, when I was beginning to go to school, and there was already this mentality affirming itself in television and in the newspapers. Well, what are the count? I repeat, I have nothing against technique, not at all, not at all. On the contrary, but the problem is the idea which was affirmed was not that of an equilibrium between technique and all the other matters, but the mentality that only technique is what really matters, and all other things are here in order to amuse ourselves, but they have no so greater relevance, no so greater importance, and so on. Well, what are the consequences of this mentality, and what has been affirmed, for instance, in newspapers of Western Europe, and also in so to speak, the educational policy? That, for instance, the study of poetry is not so important. It is not so relevant. Is not so essential. There is, for instance, the study of theology, the study of divinity, are studies which are not relevant for the formation of the individual. That is, they are nothing in comparison with technique, with the study of technical matters. Also, the study of literature, yes, but it should be subordinated to the study of technical matters. Also, philosophy, for instance, philosophy is usually the first accused of this mentality. Philosophy, what is philosophy functional to? What does philosophy serve? Nothing at all. Therefore, it should be eliminated, perhaps. There is now the idea that philosophy should be eliminated from our school system. The study, of course, of religion also, because religion is something which is not so relevant for the study of techniques, no study of history. Also, arts should be rather diminished, because what are arts in comparison to technical matters? No study of aesthetics, no study of transcendental matters. Reality should be, so to speak, accepted as it is. That is, it is unuseful to study something which transport ourselves in the imagination, the fantasy, or something which offers us a different model of reality, for instance, because reality is one and is given once and for all, cannot be modified, and should be accepted as it is. There is no alternative. And also, transcendence is something which, the thought of transcendence is something which should be rather abandoned. And also, hope, for instance, as the attitude in life, is something which has no sense, because reality is given, word is given. Therefore, hope is something which transports ourselves in something which has no value, has no relevance. Also, transformation of reality is something which it should not be proposed. That is, the weight should be on technique, and all other things are, yeah, in order also to give a certain elaboration of mind, but no more than this. And I think I have the suspect, of course it is only my suspect, but I have the suspect that this all is as a logic. The logic is, for instance, to compel people to think that there is no alternative to the reality in which they are, to trap the individual, so to speak, in a cage of mind, and to transform the mind into a cage, to chain the mind, because also with this poetry, for instance, opens perspectives. That is, poetry is the first enemy of a mentality which always want to insist on technique and nothing else, to hinder any criticism of the society, to compel people to consider the world as something given, to make people believe that no transformation of society is possible, to eliminate the concept of or possibility as such, and also to eliminate a certain kind of imagination and creativity, if they are not functional to the promotion of the technical thought. These enemies of this mentality, which in my opinion has been affirming itself from the 70s of the past century, are the hope, for instance, creativity, and the thought of transcendence, and the thought of the man as a transcendent entity, which is not bound to the particular historical situation in which it is, but which is something which goes beyond. And the reduction of the mind, so to speak, to some few principles, and imposition of a uniformity of thought, a tendency imposition of uniformity of thought. Destruction also of all which is different, of the differences between people. And finally, a kind of indoctrination as to what a person should think. So a destruction and absence of creativity, and this has, in my opinion, also repercussion for the morality. That is, intellectual aridity, which is produced by this proposal of abandonment of poetry, literature, and so on and so forth. This intellectual aridity has a repercussion also for the morality. That is, intellectual aridity brings about also an attitude of um, of um, absence of moral thought or moral reflections and so on. And therefore, in my opinion, it should be no wonder at all if the results are moral aridity and sensitivity too. That is, intellectual aridity brings about also moral aridity, and intellectual insensitivity brings about also a moral insensitivity. This is what more or less I wanted to say, and of course I am ready for the questions. I thank you very much for your attention, and I would like to repeat that I have nothing against technique. This is what I am aiming to, is that in my opinion there has been a lack of equilibrium between the aims of education. That is, too much technique and too little, too few attention on the other matters, at least in Western Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, I'd like to ask you to please explain economic ethics. You've spoken about economic ethics.
Yes,
And in your introduction, yes, sir. So, what is it, sir? How
well,
do we do?
yes, I think that this concept has different fathers. I think two great fathers of these ideas are, on the one hand, the late Pakistan economist Mahbubullah, and on the other hand, Amartya Sen. Both of them, both thinkers are both relevant for economy and for ethics. The late Mahbubullah during his life, and Amartya Sen up to now, of course. And I think that the main problem, the main aim and the main theme of economic ethics in this case is that they both have insisted on the one hand, the necessity to conciliate economy and development. That is not to say, well, the first aim of economy, the only exclusive aim of economy should be growth. But the problem is, and we can see it, we can see this point many times, both in Mabubulak and in Amartya Sen. We can the main point is to see how the development, the growth of the economy is distributed to the population. That is, and which are the main aims of a government. Because, for instance, Mabubulak makes always the example. One thing is to have growth if a government insists on the production of weapons, and another thing is to have growth, economical growth, if the government insists on the production of butter. That is, of course, economic growth is economic growth in both sense, but the population has different advantages from the insistence on the production of weapons and, for instance, concentration on the production of butter, that is, of food. And economy ethics is concentrating on this point. It is to see, of course, to promotion of development and of economic growth, but also to see that the economy should be also conciliated with the promotion of individual rights, of social rights, and of determined governmental policies. I would synthesize in this way the main ideas of both thinkers, which are very rich, of course, both for the late Mabubulak and, of course, for the Nobel Prize winner Amartya Sen.
Thank you, sir. I'll get back to you. Uh, I just read out some questions and important comments from our listeners. I'm very happy to have Raj Babu sir, Ravi Ranganathan sir, and Mirzana, Manjula Asthana, Lalit Mohan sir, Harinder Chima. Lalit Mohan sir has written, the traumatic events in Manipur and the lazy reaction of administration illustrate the logic for such deliberations by academics and concerned citizens of the world. True, sir. Professor Shandar Ahmed sir, would you like to say something regarding the contemporary that happening in Manipur? Let's not, I mean, not in a political sense, because it is related to our topic as well.
Um, yes, the question of ethics arises every time some traumatic experience and traumatic event happens around us. And again, the question of sensitivity, some people are sensitive to small happening, small events, and some wait for a big disaster to happen to awaken. So, and we respond it in a different way. And as intellectuals and thinkers, and somebody, I mean, like me, who likes to be in the company of thinkers, they respond by discussing, and this is probably the lowest level of response to injustice or something wrong happening around us. And this is the minimum that is expected of conscious human beings, to at least think ill or think critically of the unfortunate events around us. And of course, the bigger is to have the power to stop wrong, unpleasant or uncomfortable events around us. Definitely, the event. This is a forum that we can discuss, and again, the thought is the first step towards action. And we, as we here discussing, uh, probably will act in some way.
So, how can we create safe spaces for vulnerable populations, Lakshmi Sri ma'am? Can we do something like that?
uh, Discussion, of course, is not enough. Of course, thought is prior to action. But I always have this feeling about understanding of Tagore's words, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Somewhere, all of us know, if we look at the circumstances uh, during Donald Trump's era, how the Capitol Hill was raided, and masses went in, and there was such a horrible destruction. And yet people, it is the people, we, our constitution begins with the three words, like the American Constitution: we the people. And the people are becoming, I feel, including myself perhaps, we are becoming spineless. We are scared that we may be arrested, we may be whatever. I mean, of course, the some kind of uh, authoritarianism is there. So whatever be the thing, when our professor friend from Italy talks about Amartya Sen and the economics of equality, the equal distribution of wealth. That is why Amartya Sen got the Nobel Prize. That he did his research not just on the creation of wealth, not just on the upgradation of economics, but how to do equal distribution among the underprivileged and entire society. So that was the economics that our friend from Italy is talking about. So if we don't raise our voice against inequality, if we don't raise our voice against this moral aridity which leads to such plundering, such horrible, murderous atrocities, and we go on discussing, but it doesn't happen. There is always some kind of a revolution in every country. I am not trying to be incendiary, or arouse passions, not like that, but with cool thinking, cool discussion, cool action, cool fellowship, we can join hands. We can say that we are a democracy, and whatever is happening in Manipur is not right. Of course, we are writing poems, we are, shouting from the rooftops, but who is reading our poems? Sometimes Dr. Anand says, who's reading us? Well, I would say, well, Shelley said more than 200 years ago that poets are the unacknowledged legislators. Nevertheless, we are the legislators of the world. We will not stop. We will not stop at discussion. We need to be like what Tagore did for Jallianwala Bagh. I mean, he didn't go and fight, but he did give up his knighthood. He gave up his knighthood to the Britishers, saying that I am protesting against this genocide in Jallianwala Bagh. When Mahatma Gandhi did not raise his eyebrow, when many freedom fighters said we do not want to disturb the British, but Tagore made that song. That was Jallianwala Bagh. যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে. If nobody hears you, if nobody joins hands with you, then make it on your own. Follow your own path. And that's the song when he gave up his knighthood for Jallianwala Bagh. He didn't go and fight with arms.
Thank you
So
so much,
there are
ma'am.
so many methods. I think we can raise our voice and we can
Yes, ma'am.
be fearless. I mean, that's my take. If
Yes,
everybody
thank you.
joins hands, we can be fearless.
Yes, ma'am. I'll just read a couple of comments here. Tariq Muhammad Ji has written, since time immemorial, moral values are taking a nosedive, and that too perpetually, whether current affairs around the world or the bygone days, moral aridity has become a continuous process. Yes, Tariq Ji. Isabella Sordi, the fire of love overcomes the fire of hatred. She writes, Tamali Nyogila, I, like many others, think that poets and honest academicians must join politics in order to be connected with policy makings. To arrest the fast deterioration, it is urgently required. Yes, I also agree. Suchi Sharma, my question is the difference between being loved, friendship, and hatred, as all are human generated emotions. True. Teron Achuri has written, education has been proposed as an instrument of material production and has largely set aside its ethical training work. After listening to all the talks by our expert in our panel today, and yes, after reading the comments and all, I've understood one thing, that the root cause and understanding the potential consequences, we can strive to cultivate a more compassionate and considerate society. It is only by acknowledging these issues that we can begin to take meaningful steps towards a positive change. I would now like to request Professor Janelle Sir to sum up today's discussion. Over to you, sir.
In this difficult time and problems, you are with us. Thank you very much. And I am thankful to the members of the panel, Dr. Shandar Ahmed, Dr. Lakshmi Shri Banerjee, and Dr. Gyan Louis Segalbara for expressing their considered opinions on our topic, the age of moral aridity and insensitivity. Dr. Shandar was referring to it that we are insensitive when we do not care for others. But there are instances when we do not care for ourselves also. We remain silent when speech is utterly needed. This is insensitivity. When you must speak, and if you do not speak, that is insensitivity. In such cases, we generally say speech is silver, silence is golden, but I say in such cases where you must speak, silence is not golden, but it is a crime. Our insensitivity towards nature and life systems, all the panelists have referred to it, has proved suicidal for us. I make a general observation. Everybody says we have rights. Every community says we have rights. My question is, if we have rights, don't birds, animals, waters, winds, and mountains, don't they have their rights to remain unmolested by man's greed? Don't they have any right? We have trampled them. You see the cloud bursts. This is insensitivity. Insensitivity extends to our family. Dr. Shandar and Dr. Selvarga also refer to it. To family, our aged parents, our kids, our partner, and then towards ourselves too. We are compromising. We go on compromise. When we deny ourselves our essential needs, intellectual needs, love, happiness, we deny it ourselves. Beasts have original intelligence. You know why? Beasts are the happiest of the species. They remain in a state of eternal balance. You cannot shake them because they have an original intelligence which helps them retain their balance. But we started with knowledge, if you know, and from knowledge to we have graduated to artificial intelligence. But the excessive use of artificial intelligence has led to a generation. Look at your children, which has been mentally and physically retarded by apps. They don't go to play in the fields, in the playing fields. We are becoming robotic, but lack the warmth of being human. I think this is moral heredity, uh, that humanity, the warmth of being human, this is missing from our behavior, the way things are happening to us. Dr. Shandar made a very good observation with which I agree that we are in a stage when we are trying to assimilate. that, you know, change from an agrarian state, from a society which was agrarian to a society which is digital, which is virtual. We have not yet. We are enjoying the benefits. It is very. He is very right when we say we are together here. If it is because of technology, but it has its semi side also. And technology has reduced now how it has affected us. Technology has reduced man's dependence on each other. We are thus an emotionally starved race because of lack of physical connectivity and mutual interaction. In the FB world, we have 5,000 friends. Actually, we are friendless because we cannot have coffee with them nor talk with them some nonsense which is good for our mental health. Emotional starvation has removed the human stuff from our lives. You see, we are talking of insensitivity. There were some professions which were called noble: teaching, medicine. Have you ever heard any child saying that he will be a doctor because it is a noble profession, or he will become a teacher because it is a noble profession? The idea of nobility has been eaten up, gobbled up, swallowed by our insensitive systems. Because the reason is that we lack the compunction which is essential for jobs of high integrity. Medicine is a job of high integrity. Teaching is a job of high integrity. We need compunction. We need restraint. We need the sense of right and wrong, which is gone. Desert sands, Dr. Lakshmi Shiri, you were talking about it. Um, we have entered. I make another observation for you, friends. We have entered a neo Stone Age. There was a Stone Age. Now, the neo Stone Age, the age of emotional inertia, spiritual coma, and clinical death. We are alive physically. With the with the laying bare of various layers of this issue by the intelligent inputs from our panelists, I hope we have been able to trigger some serious questions which may make the audience sit up and think, I am very happy. Very intelligent questions have come, and the purpose of the intellectual and the Academy of Ethics is to raise questions, to not let the people lie. Say something, question things, and let the people think about it. So I'm thankful to Dr. Shobha, who has been with us and for moderating this discussion very effectively. And I'm also thankful to Professor Randhir Gautam, who is the sutradhar of this program, Invisible Professor. So thank you very much. Shobhaji, please carry on.
Thank you so much, sir. There is so much to learn and much more to do, I feel. We have come to the end of this most relevant discussion. We explored the consequences of moral aridity and insensitivity and how they affect our relationships, our collective well being, and the overall fabric of our society. It is essential to understand, I feel, that discussing this topic isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame, but rather about fostering a deeper awareness and finding ways to address these challenges together. So we have come to the end of the program. I would like to request Ma'am Dr. Molly Joseph, Chief Coordinator of the International Academy of Ethics, to propose the vote of thanks and to declare the discussion closed. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Shobha Sharma. I hope I'm audible enough. Am I audible enough? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Shall I
Yes.
continue? Yes,
Yes, please.
yes, yes. It gives me enormous pleasure to hear the plethora of perspectives on moral aridity. Yes, the varied perspectives from the scientist's point of view, from Professor Shander, like it is a kind of evolutionary kind of thing, a new level of sensitivity, whatever. Or when it came to Professor Gienberg, he said it is intellectual aridity that also matters, that causes this kind of, what do you call, the crux of insensitivity, moral aridity. Whatever. We have been able to touch and address the issue. Only by addressing the issue, we can legitimately say we have done something about ethics. Because after all, ours is an international academy of ethics. And I would say, with the kind of evolutionary new level of sensitivity or whatever, we are getting one way or other cocooned in our own worlds, and that togetherness, tenderness, love, care, kindness, tolerance, that is getting lost. And as Sri put it very well, it's high time. Instead of mere talk, we did something. That's what this International Academy of Ethics is trying to do. What can be the clear-cut areas of action with which we can ameliorate the situation? I'm happy that such an esteemed panel was there. A very burning topic, as Lalit Mohanji put it, has been taken, especially when we are at present in our country running through hot waters. That happens in every other part of the world. It was there during the time of Holocaust, but now it has become a new kind of dimension, which is so indigestible. Not going much into that. Let me come to my pleasant duty. Dr. Jarnail Singh, the think tank behind it, who is organizing it, energizing us, the team, into action. Sir, with all respects, I pay salutes to you. Thank you. Now, to the esteemed panelists, Professor Shander, you are just addressing the issue from a kind of what you call an evolutionary long-term perspective. And we are lending the luster of hope. It's not in a kind of howl of despair. We can do something. A new level of sensitivity can be fostered. I loved that vital spark of your talk. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Professor Shander Ahmad, and then afterwards there spoke Professor Gunberg. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Gillenberg, from Italy. Sir, yours is a deep and engrossing philosophical dimension of it. When you refer to intellectual aridity and all, it made us ponder our things so much. And into different genres, you are shifting your focus to hit at the issue. Thank you so much for your erudite elaboration and presence. Thank you. And to my dear friend, Professor Lakshmi Sri, the firebrand, I would call her. I mean, the woman who writes with conviction and stands on her own, braving the bad weather, the wind, whatever. And you hit at it, Sri. We have to speak up. We have to shake hands with the reality and then address it in a way of our own. You empower us. And the team, International Academy of Ethics, you are with us. We are so happy. Thank you for your presence. And of course, Shaba Sharma, you did so well. I mean, gelling it together in such a wonderful way. And I have to thank you so much, my dear, for being the best moderator. And there is my friend Randeep, who is working behind, but works so effectively. I was actually first I was at my wits end how to handle this streamlining. It was not functioning with me properly. But then he gave me confidence. I can speak to you. and I find any number of responses very intellectual, engaging kind of responses from people like Roland James, people like Samali, who says, we the academicians and the think tank should be there at the helm. I mean, even in politics. Thank you so much. The esteemed audience who actually fill up the space and make every panel discussion of ours so energized, so enlightening. We would
Uh,
look forward to more of these sessions later.
uh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Uh, Dr. Molly,
Yes.
I think a reference should be made to Dr. Maya Herman also.
Yeah. Oh my God. Maya is the vital force behind, but she's not there on the scene. So I was a bit, late in connecting. We got Maya's message, and she's always there. Everywhere. She's our brand ambassador, everywhere going around talking about the relevance of this thing, Maya. We owe so much to you for the efficient functionality of this International Academy of Ethics, our dynamic vice president. And this is a moment where I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you on behalf of International Academy of Ethics. Thanks
And
so much.
Dr. Molly, I also thank you for
Thank
being with us.
It's my pleasure, Dr. Jan.
All the best.
Thank you. Thank you.